The Call of Daoism. Knowing is not enough, we must apply. Willing is not enough, we must do. Bruce Lee. (2009). We enrolled the kids in Frank's after-school kung fu classes and devoted ourselves to daily training. 8-year-old Emily practiced kung fu only as much or as little as she wanted. She dressed for class and attended each session, but didn't always agree to get on the mat. "Are you ready to join the class now, Emily?" Frank coaxed, trying to get her out of the corner where she stood with her arms crossed. "Yes, all right," she answered 5 minutes before the end of class. Olivia was passionate about martial arts, but Emily preferred to dance, ballet, jazz, hip-hop, and salsa. Our family's dedication centered around martial arts pursuits, so she practiced, but only a little. While Emily found her passion in dance, Pierre looked to deepen his martial arts practice by delving into the profound teachings of Daoism, pronounced Taoism in the West. He explored the ancient texts written by Huangzi, a revered ancient Chinese scholar, and immersed himself in the wisdom of these centuries-old writings. Pierre believed that understanding the principles of Taoism, such as balance, harmony, and the natural flow of energy, would enhance his physical and spiritual development. Inspired by these teachings, Pierre wanted to visit the birthplace of Taoism in China. He believed that experiencing the culture and environment firsthand would deepen his understanding. This journey was more than a geographical expedition for Pierre. It was a pilgrimage to the roots of the philosophy that inspired his martial arts training. I was not as passionate as Pierre about Taoist philosophy, and I preferred to focus my attention on caring for our children and managing the pain in my neck that had migrated to my shoulders and back. I still wanted to support him somehow, so I made an effort to listen as he explained this philosophy to me. Nevertheless, he remained disgruntled that my circumstances prevented me from fully grasping the wisdom of these ancient texts. "You never pay attention to what I'm saying," he grumbled loudly. I tried different tactics to keep myself focused. I asked him questions to get a better understanding. "The principle of Wu Wei is the principle of non-action, or in other words, effortless actions," he began to explain before I cut him off. "Wait. So Wu Wei means lying in bed and doing nothing?" I asked him, not able to hide my sarcasm. "I'm not finished. Don't interrupt me while I'm talking," he responded, raising his voice. "But where does it say in the book to lie in bed all day?" I insisted. My resentment for his excuses was preventing me from honestly listening to him. "Shh. I'm working now." He closed his eyes, ending the conversation and dismissing me. "What are you working on?" I asked him in disbelief, while I stood next to the bed. I had mixed feelings about Pierre and his passion for Taoism. On the one hand, I admired his dedication and the depth of his intellectual pursuit. On the other hand, his interpretation of Taoist principles seemed to manifest as prolonged inactivity, which felt more like neglect of family responsibilities than a profound spiritual practice. This difference between his philosophical ideals and their practical application was a constant source of tension that tested my patience. So when he suggested taking the family to China for training, I was reluctant. Eventually, though, I agreed to spend the following summer there, and we reserved 2 months at a traditional academy for martial arts near the famous Wudang Mountains. 2010, July and August. Once school was out for vacation, we flew to the international airport of Wuhan, the largest city in the province of Hubei. I continued to carry uncertainties about the trip, even as we touched down. Pierre, with his usual determination, immediately went looking for a taxi to take us to our hotel and left me to manage the luggage. I passed our bags through the security scanner, swiftly collecting them on the other side, while Olivia and Emily, still quite young, stood by and watched. Despite Pierre's plea to pack light for the trip, we ended up with a number of bags to pass through. You would think that after 20 years of traveling and relocating to new countries, I would know how to decisively pack my life into a little bag. But I found myself yet again struggling to pick between the blue shirt and the red shirts. This conundrum was compounded now that I had to pack for my 2 children as well. I rushed to load our bags onto the trolley as the Chinese passengers hurried me from behind, inadvertently bumping into me. As I stepped out of the airport, I felt the warm summer air on my skin. I guided the trolley with our suitcases and the kids in tow and followed Pierre, who walked ahead with the taxi driver. Pierre, with his eyes bright with enthusiasm, seemed unfazed by the chaotic surroundings. He was convinced that this journey would deepen his knowledge of Taoism and enhance his martial arts practice. His intense focus on this quest often led him to neglect the practical aspects of our family life, with the expectation that I would fill in the gaps. The taxi exited the airport, and I observed the city unfolding through the rear mirror. Cranes dotted the skyline, overseeing the construction of high-rise buildings. This was evidence of Wuhan's expansion to accommodate its increasing population. Positioned at the confluence of the Han River and the Yangtze River, Wuhan held strategic importance as a port city, yet it also bore the mark of an industrial hub, a cacophony of noise and pollution. It felt like a place to get in and get out as fast as possible. The persistent gray clouds hung over the city and made it hard for me to fathom how anyone could call this home. But as they say, humans have a way of adapting to almost anything. "What hotel are we staying at?" I asked Pierre. "I don't remember the name. You'll just have to wait and see." "I got the one with the all-inclusive breakfast," he barked. He seemed to be all smiles for everyone else, but not with me. Once again, I found myself in a transactional dance where discussions about our destination and logistics were met with impatience, and I, in turn, relied on him to dictate our next move. In the hotel room, my uneasiness grew. The hotel, though clean and comfortable, felt stifling. The unfamiliar surroundings and Pierre's increasing irritability made me wonder how we would get through the rest of the summer, and whether it would bring us closer together or drive us further apart. The following morning, our breakfast consisted of steamed buns with bean paste and rice soup. Emily reveled in it, while Olivier flat out refused. "I don't want to eat rice," he declared. "But we're in China, Olivier," I said. "What else are you going to eat?" He crossed his arms in defiance. "All right, then. You just won't have breakfast today," I said with a heavy sigh. "How are we going to get to the Martial Arts Academy?" I turned to Pierre and asked. "Why don't you go figure that out?" he shot back at me. "Why do I always have to do everything?" I stared at him in disbelief. Was he expecting me to organize the trip while handling the bags and ensuring the kids were okay? "If I have to handle all the planning too," I mumbled to myself, "I might as well take the kids and go alone." We caught a bus to the village situated at the foot of the Wudang Mountains, known as the sanctuary for Taoist Tai Chi practitioners. I peered out the window at the unfamiliar streets, my mind filled with a mix of anxiety and curiosity. Observing the mothers with their babies, I noticed an unusual detail. Instead of diapers, their pants had an opening. My eyes widened in surprise as I witnessed a mother patiently waiting for her baby to relieve itself right there on the sidewalk. Are we really supposed to just walk by? Is that how they save money on diapers? I wondered incredulously. The blaring music from the shops added to the sensory overload, creating a shock wave of stimuli that raced through my body. This place was unlike any I had ever experienced. When we reached the academy, we were warmly welcomed by Master Yuan and his family. Master Yuan had a natural affection for children, and his excitement to meet Olivier and Emily was evident in the broad grin on his face, like a cat that had successfully caught a mouse. The entire family exuded warmth and hospitality, very much in contrast to the harsh surroundings. Yuan Xiugang, our school's master, was of small and thin stature, with a mustache and goatee that extended gracefully down his chin. His long black hair was tied up in a traditional Taoist bun. Master Yuan had begun his martial arts journey at 7 years old. As he got older, he continued his practice, driven by a desire to combat rheumatism that had set in during his adolescence. His pursuit led him to the Wudang Mountains, where he trained in internal styles and Taoist healing. At the Purple Heaven Temple, his exceptional kung fu skills and remarkable flexibility soon earned him a reputation in China and abroad. Once he cured himself of his rheumatism, he decided to teach these healing arts to others. In 2004, he rented an old public hospital at the foot of the Wudang Mountains and established his school. He began teaching kung fu to a small group of Chinese students and a few adventurous foreigners who respectfully referred to him as Shifu, which means master. Emily, captivated by Master Yuan's presence, wasted no time expressing her admiration, leaping into his open arms. Olivier, on the other hand, remained reserved, feeling unsure of the unfolding scene. Olivier took longer than Emily did to adjust to new situations. "What's your name?" Shifu inquired. "Emily," she eagerly shouted, while Olivier mumbled his name under his breath, barely audible. "Emily and Yo-Yo," Shifu repeated. And that's how Olivier came to be known as Yo-Yo in China. I left the kids to continue their conversation and carried our luggage upstairs. Pierre had arranged to stay in a room alone, while I preferred to share a room with the kids. I used his snoring as an excuse since it woke me up at nights. Our room contained 2 single beds, a desk, and a cupboard for our clothes. The floors were made of an ugly gray concrete, and the overall atmosphere reminded me of the army barracks in Israel. The room was dimly lit by a single overhead bulb that cast harsh shadows on the walls, and the air felt stale and musty. I sat down on the bed and felt the hardness of the mattress. Nothing about the room brought me comfort. I was hesitant to touch anything or put anything away, since the surfaces were covered with a thin layer of dust. The strangeness of the place left me with an overwhelming sense of unease and isolation, causing me to feel vulnerable and out of place. What have I gotten myself into this time? I wondered silently, hoping for a miracle to help me get through the summer. The reality of our situation was sinking in, and I felt a pang of regret. Well, now you have to make the best of it, I told myself, trying to stay positive and push down my overpowering feelings of desperation.